Today is day 152 of Blender. It is also Saturday, July 9th, 2022. And today I'm going to, again, do 4 things. I'm going to create a text animation. I'm going to try to change the color of each of the letters in geometry nodes, which I just discovered how to do yesterday by playing around in the shading workspace. And then I'm going to animate it, right? So I'm going to work with the timeline and everything, and then finally I'm going to render it. So 4 things. So I'm going to go here to geometry nodes, kind of move away that spreadsheet. I'm going to click on new to create a new geometry node system. And then over here in the properties panel, which you see all like the icons, I'm just going to go to modifiers and then just give this geometry node system a name like text. And next I'm going to disconnect the input from the output. So I'm not going to be using the cube. The cube is the input. It's still there. If you go layout and then press tab and to go into edit mode, it's still there. It's just that I'm not using it. I'm not outputting it. What I do want to output though is the text. And another word for text in Blender is string. So I'm going to do Shift A and I'm going to search for string to curves. And the reason I'm doing 2 curves is because I want to be able to have the string become, or each letter of my text to be a curve, so that I'm able to use a node that only works for curves. Later on, I'll explain. So I'll go over here and I'll say maybe I want it to be day 152. That's what it is, right? Day 152, yeah. But notice nothing happens, and that's because I haven't outputted anything into the layout. So I have to connect my curve instances, right, to my geometry, and now it appears. And now if I go to object properties and I go to the rotation X and I just put 90, it's going to rotate 90 degrees around or along the X-axis, which is the red one over here. All right, so now what I was talking about, there is this node called fill curve that only works with curves, because it's a curve node. It's over here. So I could do that, or I could just do Shift A and search it up. So fill curve and put that right in between. And that fills each curve instance. But if I go to wireframe, I notice that the edges and the vertices are very messy. And so I wanted to have a nicer fill type, and I gained that by changing the fill type to n-gons, and then I can see that it's now less messy. All right, and then after doing this, after adding fill curve, what it does, it just applies a face to the curves, and now when you have a face, it now becomes a mesh, right? And so now I can use the extrude mesh node, which is going to basically give my letters some thickness. And to change the value of that thickness, I could just go here and set it to 0.1, and that works as well. But if I go and look at the back, there's a problem. The fill only applies to the front and not the back, but that's because there's no fill after the fact. And so in order to fix that, I could just do Shift A, join geometry, put that in there, and then I can just join both of the effects. I can enjoy the extrusion of the mesh, and I can also join the fill, right? And then now it's filled both in the front and then in the back, and in the back. All right. So then if I want to further control, if I go to modifier properties, right? Geometry nodes, again, are custom modifiers. And if I put any modifier, like the array modifier, I notice that there are values that I can control. So if by any case I want to control, for example, the thickness of the letters through here, and I don't want to change it over here in geometry nodes, I can just select this value and plug it into the input, and then it's a value now that I can control in the modifier properties. So I'll just change it back to 0.1. All right, so that's one way. Now this is it for like the visual. Besides the material, this is what it is going to look like. Oops, forgot the font. I'm going to go here, Arial Black, because that's the font over here. All right, so this is what it's going to look like besides the material, which we'll get to later. Now let's get to the movement. So to move this string or this text, I'm going to do Shift A and get a translate instances node. I'm going to put that right in between there. And so what this does, if I just change the position, the value of X, it's going to move left or right. Y is up and down, and then Z is forward or backward. But I don't want to just move all of the letters at the same time in the same axes. I want them to kind of bounce, right? So in order to control, or to kind of have more control over this, I'm going to just take the position of each letter, and actually, first of all, let me go to layout. I'm going to do Shift A and add an empty. and a plane axis. And that's what I'm going to use to control basically the position or the translation of each letter, the movement of each letter. So I'll go back here to geometry nodes for my text, and I'm going to click on the empty and just kind of select it, and then just bring it into here. And that's going to bring the object information of the empty. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the distance between each of the letters and also the empty. So then that distance is going to be the value that it's going to move. It's going to translate to. So I'll show you. So in order to get the actual position of each letter, I have to get a position node. Put that in there. And then to get the distance, I have to get a vector math node and change that to distance. So why not math and instead I'm doing vector math? Because I'm dealing with actual shapes, and so vectors. So I'm taking the distance between two vectors. So the position of each letter is one, and then the location or the position of the empty is another. And so then this value, I'm going to just put it, I'm going to put it into the translation, and notice that, and you'll notice that the letters are going to move the same position for each, or at least the same distance that they are from the empty originally. So if you notice D, right? D has 0 distance. It's 0 distance away from the empty. So when I go and plug in this value for the translation, D won't actually move at all because the distance is 0, and therefore the translation will be 0. And so it won't translate, it won't move anywhere. So look, you'll notice if I put that in there, D won't move while the other letters will move. And it makes sense that the 2 would move more farther, right? Because 2 has the largest distance away from the empty. So that works. Okay. So now, to get some more control over this, let me go to the escape key and hover over front. Okay. So now, if I grab the empty and I do G, and then I press X, it's moving a little weird. And so in order to get it to be up and down, or to move up and down in the same kind of line, I'm going to do Shift A, and I'm going to search up combine X, Y, Z. I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to make sure that the value is not connected to X, but instead it's connected to Y, which is the up and down. So now if I move it and I press G to grab and then X to grab on the X axis, I notice that now they're moving up and down in a kind of like bouncy way. But I also notice a problem. The closer I am to a letter like D, the lower it is, and the farther I am from a letter like Y, or a number like 2, the higher it is. And I want the opposite to happen, because when I'm going to animate this, I want the empty to go like this, right? And I want it to, all the letters are going to be starting at the floor, right? And then when I'm closer to a letter, I want the letter to go up, right? And not go down, or like be down. I want it to start down and then go up. Anyway, basically, I just want to do the opposite. So what I'll do is, I'll do Shift A, and get a color ramp, and put that right in there. And for this, I am just going to go here, and I'm going to flip the color ramp. And so now I notice that if I press Shift to grab the axes and then X, as the closer I am to a letter, the higher it is, right? And the farther I am from a letter like Y, the lower it is. And so that's the effect that I wanted. So now it's getting like, like a bouncy effect. All right, so now I also want to control kind of the bounciness, or the height that it goes, or that it bounces to. So in order to do that, I'll just get a math node and put that in there. And then just change it to multiply. And if I change the value to 2, it's going to go higher. So if I do G to grab the axes and X, it's always going to go, right? It's actually never going to go past kind of like this line over here, roughly. This is going to be like 2, right? And then if I change the value, like, let me move this back. So GX, right, it's never going to pass that. But if I change the multiplier value to, like, let's say something like 5, it's actually going to pass that if I move it. So if I do GX, notice that it's going all the way. The value that, controls the height that it's going, let me rephrase. The distance that it's traveling once it bounces up is controlled by that multiplier value. And so that kind of works like that. But there's two ways that we can control that value. Again, I can just put it into all the way into the input, right? And so I can control it over here, like I can control the thickness of the letters, or I can make it a little bit easier, and I can just get the scale of the object, which is the empty, and have the scale of the empty control the multiplier value. So now, if I press S to scale, the multiplier value will increase as well. And if I decrease or scale it down, the multiplier value will decrease. And again, the multiplier value determines the height or the distance that the letters actually go, above. It's a variable that affects the translation. All right. Anyway, let's see. Now, there's also one thing. If I do G and X and I go at a constant speed, all the letters are going up and down at the same speed, whereas I want the letters to kind of follow like a parabola. So I want it to go up fast, and then I want to slow down, right? Because velocity is 0. Like let's say you were in a hill, right? You go up fast, and then you slow down at the hill. Well, not really, but yeah. And then you accelerate fast downwards. That's basically what I want to happen. And the way I can do that is by doing Shift A and getting a float curve and putting that right in between over here. And so it's going to be connected between the color ramp and the multiplier. And what this does is I can just take this point over here and I can just kind of curve it. And then now if I move it and if I move the axis at a constant speed, I notice that it's going up fast, and then it's going up fast, slowing down at the top, and then going like down fast, which is what I wanted, instead of it going at a constant speed up and down. So it's looking nicer. All right. Let's see. So that's it for the actual possibility of it bouncing. Now onto the colors. So for the colors, let me do a basic one so far. So if I go here to day 152, when did I ever give it a color? Okay. If I go to material properties, I click on new, I go to base color, and then I can just change it to whatever color. But it's not going to work two things. First of all, I'm not in material preview. I can only view materials if I'm in material preview, which top right icon over here. And then two, the color that I'm actually changing is the color of the cube, because again, that was the original input, but we're not using the cube. It's not being outputted. What we are using is a string. So I have to do Shift A, and I have to set material and put that in there, and then choose the material, and then I'll be able to see it. But I don't want to have all my letters be the same color. And so in order to fix this, I'm going to go to the shading workspace at the top. Okay. And I'm just going to do Shift A and search up for an object info node. And then I'll do Shift A and search up a color ramp node. So I'm going to connect the color to the base color. And I am going to notice now that the color is just white and black, because that's what it is here. And basically I'll show you if I just change the color to be something like, whatever this is, that's how it's going to be. It's going to be a gradient, right? Because it's linear. But yeah, I change the color by clicking on it and then clicking on the tag and then just change the color here. But I don't want it to just be those colors. I want them to be random. And so I'm going to get the information of the object, which in this case is a geometry node, text, string, whatever. And I'm just going to select this random and put it in here as a factor. And now notice that the colors are a little bit random. So this, like the D is lighter, the A is darker, but I don't want it to just be a linear gradient. I want it to be only colors that I want. And so in order to kind of fix this, I'm going to go to linear and I'm just going to change it to constant. And now it's only going to be either black or pink, right? But I want it to be, let's see, kind of more random. So in order to kind of fix that, I'll just add more colors, because I didn't just want, actually, you know what, I could just leave it as black or pink. I was going to have more colors, but black or pink looks good. What colors did I use yesterday? Oh, okay. So let me change the first one. I'll change it to, I'll go to hex and change it to that. Right? And then I'll grab the blue, change that from the pink to the blue. I also have the pink. So I'll add a new one with the plus sign, and then just change, wait, which one did I add? Okay, this one, change that to this one, right? And then there's a yellow, so I'll add a new one, change that to this hex code, and then I have this, and I'll have a new one, and we'll just change that to this hex code. Alright, and now I'll just kind of, the more space you give it, the more of the letters, are gonna be of that, I can't even speak. The bigger or wider it is, the more letters are gonna be that color. And so I'm just gonna try to have it be a little bit equal. Maybe I just want one letter like this. Just kind of play around until I kind of like it. So this is just randomly assigning the color to the letters. I know there's a way to individually set each letter to a specific color that I want, and I think that has to do with the object index, but I haven't done that yet. So I'll explore that some other day. Does that look good? I don't think so. Does that look good? I don't even know. It really does not look good. That's okay. I think we'll leave it like that. Let me see. Maybe I only want it to be two colors. Maybe I'll just do pink and yellow. And I'll delete this color. What the? Oh my god, Control Z. Can I delete it? Oh my god. Hello? Oh, that's how I deleted it. I don't like this one. And if I do linear, it's gonna be colors in between. Yeah. But I want constant. Alright, something like that. Maybe, maybe not. I don't even know. Do I delete this one? I'm just trying to let it look good. And if I just do delete the pink and have, no, I meant delete the pink. Oh. Alright, I think that's fine. I don't really care. Anyway, now I'm just gonna Control S, save this, what's today's date? 7/9/22. Alright, and then I'm going to render, or no, animate. Now we're in animating part. Okay, back to layout. Alright, I'm just going to delete these notes. Go back here. Alright, Shift A to add a backdrop, mesh, plane, S to scale, G to grab, X to grab on the X-axis, scale a little bit again. Tab to go into edit mode, click on edge select, which is the top left button over here. Select the back edge, E to extrude, and then Z to extrude on the blue axis, which is the Z axis. And I'm going to go back into object mode by pressing tab and then pressing S again to scale, but I'm going to press X to scale on the X axis. And then I'm going to go over here to modifier properties, which is the wrench icon. Add a bevel modifier, and that should add a bevel to that edge there. I'm going to increase the amount of segments, right click, shade smooth. Alright, I'm going to also go to object, material properties, and just change the base color all the way to white. Okay, now I'm going to go to rendered preview, right? And I'm just going to select the, oh wait, no, I said I was going to do the animation. This is the rendering part. Okay, animation. So I'm going to go timeline, right? And I'm just going to grab the empty, and I'm going to move it into right before it starts affecting the D, so kind of about here. I'm going to press N to bring up my transform panel, and that location on the X-axis, which again is the red one, the red axis, that location, I want that to be my first frame. I want my video to start there, and so I'm going to hover over that location, that X, I'm going to press I as I hover over it, and that's going to insert a location keyframe in my timeline, and then you'll see it over here. And then I'm going to make sure that I start at 1, end at 80. And I'm going to go to keyframe 80, which is the last one, and I'm going to grab the empty, and I'm going to, why is it not grabbing? Hello? Hello? Thank you. So I'm going to press G to grab, and then X to grab, and I'm going to do right after it stops affecting the two, so right about there, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hover over the location and press I to insert the keyframe, and then I'm going to hover over the timeline, press T, so that it's linear, so that the video kind of loops again. I'm going to go back to keyframe 1, and then I'm going to play it, and then you'll see it bounce. See? Perfect. Alright, and so that's the animation part, super easy. Now back to the rendering part. So I'm going to go to, press N, bring down my timeline. Alright, and then now where was I? The sun. So I'm going to change this to a sun, change the strength to 3, deselect the shadow, and then I'm going to do G to grab it, Y to grab on the Y axis, which is the green axis. I'm going to press R to rotate. I want to rotate this way. Why is it so weird? And G, Z to grab it down. Rotate. Literally, why is it so odd? There we go. So that's kind of what I want. And now to align my camera to view. So I'm going to do Control-Alt numpad 0. If you do not have a numpad, you go to Edit, Preferences, Inputs, and then emulate your numpad. So check that on, and then you can do that. So Control-Alt numpad 0 to kind of set my camera to the view that I want to render. I'm going to make this easier for me and press the button under the escape key and hover over front, and then just kind of scroll down a little bit. Okay, and do Alt camera, what? Control-Alt 0 until I like the view that I have. Alright, I'm just gonna press play. Make sure that I like everything. By the way, to get out of this view, you press the middle mouse button, and by any chance, if you get out of it accidentally, you press 0 to go back to the view. Okay, or numpad 0. Let me see. Is that the view that I want, or do I want to go closer? Control numpad 0. I think that's nicer. Okay, that's good. Alright, so at this point, that's what I want. So I'm going to go to Output Properties, and I'm going to go to Output and select the folder. What is this? Oh. And I'm going to select the folder, or create a folder, actually. Day 152. So that my images that I'm going to render go in there. And then the images are going to be PNG images, and that's literally it. So I go to Render at the top here, and I'm going to render animation. And then if I go to the folder, I'll be able to see the each frame from 1 through 80 pop up here at this folder. And then what I'll do is I'll join all the images together, And then I'll just render animation again, using video editor in Blender. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Why did it stop? Oh, it's okay. All right, and then I'll unpause once this thing is done. It literally was done the second I unpaused it. Okay, anyway, so now I'm gonna go back over here, scroll all the way down, video editing, go scroll this all the way up, add image sequence, go to the folder that I just made, and then select the first one, and then go scroll all the way down, just select the last one by pressing shift, and that should select all of the frames or all of the images in between. I'm going to click add image strip, and then now if I play it, right, it's going to look like my video. And so now all I have to do is go to output properties at the top here. I'm going to select or create another folder so that my video goes there, accept. I'm going to change the file format to be FFmpeg video. If I go under encoding, I'm going to change the container to be MPEG4 and the output quality to be high quality. I'm going to do Control S just in case this thing crashes. Can never be too careful. And then render animation. And then in a few seconds, if I go to my video folder, the video should appear here, and this is the final result. Alright, that's it for today. Let me play it one more time. It's so satisfying to watch. Okay, that's beautiful. Anyway, bye.